friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Can you guys believe we are already halfway through 2025? Personally, I cannot. I feel like time is moving by a little too quickly, but because of that, we can now do the mid-year book tag. So I've compiled a bunch of questions. I've pulled all the books that I want to answer for these questions, and basically we're gonna yap about books for a while. So I would grab a drink, grab a snack, get cozy, get comfortable, and get ready. So let's dive right in. So the first question is best book you've read of 2025 so far, and I actually have a few answers for this one. So the first one that I'm going to say is Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. As you guys know, if you've watched my past videos, this was my first book from Kristen Hanna, and I'm absolutely obsessed. I now know why everyone's so enthralled with her writing. I read this not really fully knowing what to expect, other than that it's an emotional read, and everyone was right. Basically, we follow our two friends throughout the course of their lifetime, and we just get to watch them evolve and grow in their friendship. We got to see them struggle. We got to see what it was like for different hardships for each of our characters. But ultimately, they found their ways back to each other because at the end of the day, they're each other's family. And there's something that happens in this book. I feel like it's a pretty known book, and there's also a Netflix TV show, but in case you haven't read it, there is something that happens towards the end of this book that is just gut-wrenching, and I sobbed. I sobbed like a little baby. I have never cried so hard while reading a book, and I think that's just a true testament to Kristen Hanna's writing because it was phenomenal. You really get a sense of each decade that they're in and just the lifestyle, what's going on, the slang, the verbiage that they used. It was just so immersive, and it felt so real that I was just like, oh my God, I need to like go close this book and touch some grass because I was just so emotionally not well after finishing this book. I do still want to watch the Netflix show because I have heard that the show and the book differ a lot, and a lot of people prefer the book over the show. So I'm going to watch it at some point. I just have to mentally prepare myself because I still heard the show is just as gut-wrenching. So anyways, in case it wasn't obvious, this was a 5-star read for me. I just absolutely loved it, and I'm very eager now to explore more of her work and see what else is out there. So this was a 5-star, I absolutely loved it. And then another book that I have for this question and this prompt is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. As you guys know, if you've been watching some of my past videos, I've been starting Throne of Glass, so I've been reading my way through this series. And I'm gonna be honest, like the first chunk of the books, they were fine. I could understand why people were really in love with them, but I was kind of like, okay, I'm not getting a 5-star feeling until Queen of Shadows came in. This book was a showstopper, stunning. I just devoured this book, and I loved every single minute of it, because usually there's a few different character POVs that you get in this series, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't care about this character, like I don't want to be in their POV right now. Every chapter I devoured it. I was so into every single point of view and just figuring out what was going on and just the connections that are made. Chef's Kiss, fantastic. It's a fantasy series. I'm sure most of you guys know this series. It's very well popular for a reason, and this was my first 5-star in the series. I have since finished Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I liked them, Tower of Dawn less so than Empire of Storms, and now I am about to read Queen of Shadows, which I am very terrified for, but so far out of the series, this has been my favorite, and this is the only 5-star I've given in the series so far. The next question is the best sequel you've read in 2025, and it is without a question Onyx Storm. I think this was such a great sequel follow-up in this world simply because Iron Flame I thought was not that great, so my expectations were low, and this book did not disappoint. I had such a fun time reading this book, and I also just have to say, I think the lead up to this release, everyone talking about it, the book community coming together, the midnight release parties, and then seeing all the reactions, the edits, the memes after everyone's been reading it, it just felt like a fun community experience that I think also elevated reading this book in real time with everyone else. It just felt like we were all in on a little secret and we were all just like chatting about it. So this is the third book in the Empyrean series where we can just continue to follow all of our main characters that we've been following throughout the series, particularly Violet, as she continues to grapple with everything that's going on. We do get a lot of, I think, lore unlocked, and I'm really curious if the next map in the next book will be different, because we did go to some different places in this world that aren't technically included on the map, and I believe in an interview with Rebecca Yarros, she said that they didn't update the map because they thought it was too spoilery, which, like, I get it, but like, come on, it would have been fun maybe like the back end paper to be a different map, but Regardless, I absolutely had a time reading this book, especially the ending on how it ends, and you're just like staring at a blank wall, processing everything that's going on. I personally love this. Also, I am a sucker for the sprayed edges of these books. So like, again, I thought this was really well done. I know a lot of people like either love or hate this series, or they just thought this was hot garbage. You know what? I was entertained. I saw some twists coming, but then some twists not. And it was just a fun time reading this one. And what can I say? I just love dragons and this world, and it's so fun, and I'm very eager for the next book, even though we have no idea when it's coming out. But that's okay, because Rebecca Yarros needs to take her time, because I would rather her take her time, make a great book, than rush it, aka Iron Flame, you know? If you know, you know. But this was probably my favorite sequel I've read so far this year. Next question is new releases that have come out but I haven't read yet this year. The first book is Abby Jimenez's new romance book, Say You'll Remember Me. I was very excited for this book simply because I absolutely loved Just for the Summer, so I was really hoping this one would maybe be of similar vibes, or just similar caliber of writing and atmospheric and romance and just everything. And then reviews started coming out of this book, and it's been very mixed reviews, so I've been a little cautious of wanting to read this. I don't know when I'll read it, but I definitely do want to get to it. I actually own the audiobook for this one, so I will probably listen to it maybe when I go on walks and things like that, but I've just been kind of putting it off simply because a lot of people that I trust in their reviews did not enjoy it as much as her other books, so that's a little disappointing. And I know I probably shouldn't let other people's opinions influence my own, but to see the commentary, you know, it's a bit sad. So I'm still optimistic that I'll probably enjoy it. I'm just lowering my expectations of it being a 5-star read. It'll probably be like a 3 or 4-star read, which again isn't a bad thing, but I just was excited. Now I'm not as excited. I'm going to get to it this year. I just don't know when. Maybe like in August. Maybe I'll read it in August, guys. I don't know. But so that is one book that recently came out this year that I want to read. I just don't know when yet. And then the next book that came out is Night and the Moth by Rachel Gelleg. She's one of my new favorite authors, and so I'm very excited to read this one from her because I absolutely loved the Shepherd King's duology, and I just think this cover is really cool, funky, unique. She creates such out-of-the-box world systems that I'm sure this book is very similar, and I've seen nothing but amazing reviews of it, so I'm just kind of waiting for the transition between summer and fall to read this one. So I am gonna read it. I don't have a physical copy or an audiobook or an ebook of it yet, but I will get it eventually, and I'm very excited to read it. Question is one of my most anticipated reads later on in the year, and I honestly don't have that many on my radar, and the most anticipated one for me is Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. I am beyond excited to read this. This is a prequel to the Letters of Enchantment duology, and I'm ecstatic. Writing is just so enchanting that I am excited to go back into this world, and I actually received an early copy of this book in eARC, so I'm hoping to read it within the next few months, but I am thrilled. I just love her writing. There's still a few backlog books that I want to read from her, but she has a new book this year, Wild Reverence, that is top of my to-do list of books that I want to read. Yeah, next question is book that was the biggest surprise, and I am going to say Summer in the City by Alex Astor. I went into this book with like no expectations. I literally bought this just because of how adorable I thought the sprayed edges were and just how cute this book is. And then I feel like I've mentioned it a few times, but this book has a map in it. So I quite literally just bought it for the aesthetics. I knew nothing about it, but basically this is a billionaire romance where we follow our main character who is kind of like struggling, but she just is at a crossroads in her life right now, and she's dealing with some family drama, but then also trying to achieve some work goals and dreams. So we get to watch this inner conflict with her, and then obviously her next door neighbor just happens to be one of the wealthiest men in the world, or I guess in America, and they hit it off. And so, or they don't hit it off. It's a more like, not full-on enemies to lovers, but it's kind of grumpy sunshine, where our main female character is a little bit of the grumpy, and then our male character is a little bit of the sunshine, I guess. But it is such a fun dynamic. This was also my first billionaire romance, and I guess this is a sign that I need to read more because I just had so much fun. If you've been to New York, you probably know a bunch of the landmarks and the places that they go to in this book, so it was fun just like getting to read it in this form, or getting to be in those places while reading it. And then it was like, is there some stuff that happens towards the end where I kind of roll my eyes, where I'm like, is that realistic? Probably not. However, I suspended reality and I just enjoyed this. It was such a fun time. It's also on the shorter side, so I flew through it really fast. And this book, I believe, is getting picked up to be made into either a movie or a TV show, which I can vividly picture because when I was reading this, it felt ready to be made into either a movie or a show. So this book was just a pleasant surprise, and now I recommend it to friends who are just wanting something light and fluffy and like nothing serious because it's a billionaire romance. So like, what more could you want, really? Next question is favorite new authors that I've read from this year. I feel like I've already mentioned them, but Kristen Hanna is one of my new favorite authors. I have read Firefly Lane, and the next book that I picked up from her was The Nightingale because I feel like everyone talks about this book as well. I am holding off until like winter time to read this. It just looks like a winter book. I don't know why. Maybe it's because the cover's so moody, but I'm really excited to continue to explore Kristen Hanna's work. She has a lot of books out there, so if you guys have any recommendations on what I should read after The Nightingale, definitely let me know. I feel like I've seen a lot of people talk about The Great Alone and The Other Woman or something like that. The Woman? I don't know, those two books that I feel like people have been recommending, but she's become one of my new favorite authors this year. And then the next author is Rachel Gillig. I think I'm butchering her last name, but I read The Shepherd's King's duology at the beginning of this year, and I loved it. I understand why people rave about these books. I will say they're so different. This one is mostly like a one-person POV. This one we get multiple character POVs, and it was just I just didn't expect that. This one's really setting up the world and the atmosphere and kind of the main plot, while this one we now get to dive deeper into the plot while but we get to explore deeper into our characters that we already know. I just think she does a great job of creating unique worlds and magic systems that you have not read before, and the love interests are very will they or won't they kind of vibes. This was also very dark, atmospheric, and earthy vibes, which again, I feel like there's just not many, or I haven't read that many books like these, so it just really made them stand out when I think about fantasy books. So I was really happy that I read these finally this year, and like I said, I can't wait to read her new release. She's definitely become one of my favorite authors. I do think her writing is also very interesting, just how she describes things, so I'm curious to see how it is in the new book, if it's that same like dark earthy vibes. But anyways, so those are my two favorite authors that I've read from this year. Next question is favorite audiobook. This one's like kind of a cheat because I think I read it at like the end of last year, beginning of this year, and that is the Little Women Ensemble Cast audiobook. I cannot recommend this enough. I thought it was such a fun way to read Little Women, and this was my first time reading Little Women. I have seen the movies, so like I know what the plot is, but getting to listen to it and an ensemble cast basically acting it out, chef's kiss, fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. And Laura Dern is also a narrator in it. So it was just like such a fun time reading this book. I did try to read it physically and it just wasn't working for me. So then I switched to this audiobook and it was fantastic. Next question is newest fiction crush. And I'm gonna have to say Rowan from the Throne of Glass world. I just have Queen of Shadows pulled, but you guys know he's in these books and I absolutely love him. I will say I loved Dorian in the first few books, and then when we got Rowan, I was just like, oh yes, he is this man. I love him, and just how he'll go to bat with Aelin and just everything she needs. Fan-freaking-tastic. Their chemistry, the tension there, oh my god, it's such a slow burn, but in the best possible way. I feel like, again, you guys probably all know about Rowan, so I'm not going to talk about him too much, but he's definitely one of my new fictional boyfriends to add to the rotation. The next one I have is from One Golden Summer, Mr. Charlie. I loved him in this book. He is so witty and flirty, but also very serious and so observant, and to realizing what Alice needs and like understanding every situation without being judgmental. I just loved him. In Every Summer After, I did think he like was a misunderstood character, and like, you know what happens towards the end of that book, you're kind of like, ick, Charlie, really? Redemption. He is amazing in this book. I loved getting to like fully get to know him better and like see him grow as a person, and like his relationship with Alice. I just can't stop thinking about them, but Charlie is a new book boyfriend to add into the rotation. I think he is that man, and he's perfect. Okay, the next question is a book that made you cry, and I feel like I can only say Firefly Lane because no book comes close to making me sob the way this book made me sob. Like, I was was using tissues, like almost a full tissue box. That is how much I cried. And I know I've already talked about this book a lot, but the emotional depth in this one far surpasses all the other books that I've read this year. I will say maybe Kingdom of Ash might make me cry. I am scared to read that book in the next Throne of Glass book that I need to read, but that one might make me cry. But again, this one, I was sobbing, and I had like snot coming out of my nose, like such puffy swollen eyes. Like I haven't cried that hard in a minute. So if you need a book that will make you emotional, I would recommend reading Firefly Lane. Most beautiful book you've purchased this year. You guys already know I am a sucker for Carly Fortune's covers. They are truly works of art. I quite literally have purchased a print from the artist who designs her books. That's how much I love this design. So naturally, I'm gonna say Carly Fortune, and they just look so good lined up on the shelf together. So love her books. And then I've already mentioned this book as well, but Summer and the City. I was a sucker for these sprayed edges, which I know not every book needs a sprayed edge, but these were just too cute not to pass up. And I figured it would look good on my romance collection because I only had a few hardcover romance books, and now it just looks a little bit better fleshed out with this one in my rotation. And then I've already mentioned this book as well, but Onyx Storm. Again, you guys, I'm a sucker for the sprayed edges. I think they look so fun on the shelf, and I just wanted this book mostly because I missed out on the first edition of Fourth Wing with the dragons on it. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna miss out on these. I'm getting it, and I'm so happy that I did. And this is the Barnes & Noble edition as well. All the books that I've shown, actually, they are all the Barnes & Noble special editions. You might still be able to get this one. Basically, the main special edition of this one is that the text here is this light pink color instead of yellow. The cover is also kind of iridescent. It just like glows when the light hits it. And then there's also some artwork on the inside flap. So that is the Barnes & Noble special edition. I've mentioned this in a few videos, but Summer in the City has a lot of special editions. I don't know if they're still available because it's kind of like the first printing, and then once there's no more, there's no more. So this is the Barnes & Noble one. I love the little taxi cabs in it. And then in the map, I believe there's also a Barnes & Noble on here. Where is it? Oh yeah. Barnes & Noble is marked on the map. So it's really cute. This is the hardcover of it with this pink foiling. Obsessed, but there's a lot of different edges on this one. So if you're interested in this, like Target has one, Walmart has one, Barnes & Noble. I think there's someone else that also has a special edition version. So I would check out, there's a lot of cute ones, but this one personally was my favorite. And then this is, I did get the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which I think just has like a bonus chapter in it or something. But for the most part, these are what all the sprayed edges look like. I think Target is the only exception of the edges looking different, which that was a nightmare in and of itself. You probably could still find one out in the wild, I bet, of this edition, but yeah. So those are some of my pretty books. Question is books that you are hoping to read by the end of this year. So priority number one is Wild Reference, like I've already mentioned. Very, very excited to get to that book. And then also, I've briefly mentioned it, but Kingdom of Ash. I am terrified to read this book, if I'm being honest, guys. Like, it scares me, one, on how big it is, but then two, I'm just scared because everyone's reactions are like heartbroken sadness. So like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm afraid some people are gonna die that I love, and I just don't know if I can cope with that. So those are two books on my priority TBR pile right now. Oh, and then also I really want to continue into the Shadowhunter universe. I don't know why, but I've been really just like itching to read more. I think I've been seeing some people read City of Bones and like the Infernal Devices, and I'm like, you know what, I should continue reading books in this franchise. Like, it just sounds so good right now. So I am excited to continue it. I do have the next book in my collection, in my TBR cart, that I hope to read, but those are kind of the books that I'm kind of prioritizing and that I want to read before the year is up. The next question is a book you didn't love, but everyone else did. And the book that I'm gonna say for this is The Wedding People. I thought it was fine, but I feel like a lot of people raved about this one to the point where I think it's kind of overhyped. I was reading it and I found it very, very hard to get through. Like, I just found it so boring. So then I switched to the audiobook, and I thought that was a more enjoyable reading experience. But overall, I just, like, I understood what was being told and I understood the point it was trying to drive, but I just found it really boring. I appreciate the story it was telling and I appreciate the points it was trying to drive home. I just found it boring. And I know a lot of people love this one. I think I gave it 3 stars because the writing is well crafted and I can appreciate that. but I just really struggled reading this one. So if this is on your TBR, I would recommend checking out the audiobook, because once I switched to the audiobook, I do think it helped this out in my rating and I enjoyed it a smidge more. But yeah, this is a book that I didn't really love, and that's okay. Okay, the next question that I have is a book that could cure a reading slump, and I'm going to say Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This book is so fun and whimsical, and if you like Bridgerton, if you like the Regency vibes mixed with a little fairy and like fairy magic and just kind of ridiculousness, then I think you should pick this one up. It is on the shorter side, and it's even shorter than what you guys might think, because I didn't realize this, but my copy has like a second little chunk of a book in here, so it's pretty short and quick, and the writing was just very whimsical and very fun. And I hadn't read a book like this in a hot minute, because we are basically following our main character who, when she was a child, kind of got in trouble with a fairy who took half of her soul, quite literally. So she is walking around with only half of herself, and basically she becomes of age, and her cousin is like now courting in society, and while they're doing all this shenanigans, they're gonna try and figure out how to get her other half back. So it's kind of like we have this journey of like, oh, there's this crazy, like we need to figure out how to join the souls again, while also like the courtship atmosphere or the courtship storylines. It's just so fun reading this, and I really like this. I know there's like, I think another book in this series. I don't necessarily know if I want to continue it, just because I found this one to be just such a perfect standalone. Everything was kind of tied up very nicely, so I might read it if I'm feeling like it, but I had a great time, so very much would recommend this one. Next question is, how are you doing towards your reading goal? And you guys, I am crushing it. As of filming this, I'm currently 12 books ahead of schedule. I have read 31 out of 40 books. I always set my goal kind of just at 40, just because I feel like that's a realistic thing for me to do as someone who has a full-time job, and I just do reading in my free time. But I've been having such a great reading year this year in particular. There hasn't been that many terrible books that I've read. I only think of one bad book, and then everything else has been a pretty enjoyable book. So I feel like that's me getting to know my reading taste better, which is pretty exciting, and overall it's just been a great year. So I am curious on where like my final reading stat will end up, like how many books I'll have read this year, but so far so good, you guys. I am doing good. Let me know how you guys are doing down below in the comments. Are you guys on track? Are you behind? Are you just not caring? Like, let me know. And the last question to round us out is, how many 5-star reads have I had this year? And so far I've had 4. That is phenomenal. I was getting a bit worried that I wasn't going to have a 5-star, because there was a drought. I swear, you guys, like the first 4 months of this year, I didn't have a 5-star read, and then it was like bam, 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 5 stars. So my 5 stars include Queen of Shadows, duh. I feel like I keep raving about that book, but I just loved that one. Then I have Sunrise on the Reaping. Again, a Hunger Games girly. This one really hit hard, and I truly appreciated everything about this book. So that was my second 5-star read of the year. Then I read Firefly Lane shortly after Sunrise on the Reaping, and that was a 5-star read, because again, I have never cried like that for any other book. So the emotional connection I had, that was a 5-star alone. And then the most recent 5-star read I've had is One Golden Summer. Again, the perfect summer read, and it was so magical and fun. Like, I have no corrections or complaints about it. It is perfect. So that's going to be it, you guys. Those are all the questions of my mid-year check-in. Let me know your thoughts on the questions. If you want to answer some of them in the comments below, let me know. Or tell me how you're doing towards your reading goal. I would love to see how everyone's tracking along. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe as always so you don't miss out, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye guys.